Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections in mind. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that my movie collection is usually the backdrop to all my my movie and TV reviews. These are empty now, as you see. They are now arrayed before you, so this is just my way of showing you how I've curated my movie collection over the years. A few things before we get into this. First off, I was clearly not the first one to ever do a movie or Blu-ray collection, whatever. I personally have been inspired to do this for a while now by fellow YouTubers Chris Stuckman and John Flickinger, the Flick Pick there. They're great YouTubers. If you haven't checked them out already, go check them out now. They're great guys. They do great work. Also, a little bit different from either of those guys. They've just done their Blu-ray collections in the past. I'm gonna do everything from Blu-rays to regular old DVDs to even VHS. Yes, I still use VHS for a couple of reasons. One, there are certain mainly you're going to be seeing the classic Disney films on VHS because those are the ones I grew up with. I got used to the aesthetic of seeing them on VHS. I maybe would have bought a few of them on Blu-ray or in the past, but A, they stay perpetually very expensive. B, they have Disney has a bad habit of adding things to their movies afterwards that make no sense. Case in point, when Beauty and the Beast got released, I got a extra song number, I believe, in there that served no purpose to the story and wasn't even that good a song to begin with. So that's why I still keep the VHSs of my classic Disney things. These aren't the ones that I grew up with. I bought these at a thrift shop because they're as $35 for a new Blu-ray version of Disney film, $2 for a VHS. So you do the math on that one. And also, I keep a lot of DVDs on hand because you know, there are certain movies that definitely deserve the high-def Blu-ray treatment, and I haven't seen any of the 4K movies. I'm sure they look great on depending on which movie they did and how the process worked, but there are certain movies that just don't need a high-def remaster or anything. Even in some cases, it's detrimental to the film as a whole because the way they were filmed in the past contributed directly to how the look was supposed to do. If you're familiar with anything, the high-def re-releases of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know that when they remastered all those episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they did a lot of like brightening up and stuff, and that ruined a lot of the things that the original film, when it was shot in regular 4:3 aspect ratio, when they had to remaster it, they went with the ubiquitous 16:9 widescreen frame. It's exposing things that were meant to stay hidden because that's how it was filmed. So that's why I still keep a lot of DVDs. Plus, a lot of DVDs are cheaper, and I'd rather have the movie that I really want to see that in any form, or in just if it's DVD. Yeah, it's not the best quality ever for some things, but then again, there are certain things that don't really need it. So, with that all being said, let's get into. I want to just share with you how I've curated this collection, why I've picked certain titles, some mini reviews of certain movies as they go along, things like that. You know, I just want to share these things with you. If you're watching this, I appreciate whatever audience I get, as I say, with all my videos. So with that being said, let's get into this. First off, I have a small little my nonfiction selection of DVDs. This is Air Superiority U.S.-Soviet Fighter Matchup, Aviation Week. This I've actually transferred from a VHS. This was actually a free video that was somewhere in my college's department They were cleaning out their video storage. This was just free on the table. I decided to pick it up. I have a big affinity for military history, especially World War II and Cold War history, so this was right up my alley. So that was right there. Next we have B-29 Frozen in Time, a Nova documentary. Again, military, great documentary. If you've never seen this before, I recommend it. Be warned, there is even in Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, there is a twist ending about this. Next we have my collection of Bill Nye the Science Guy. I have some selected episodes from my past. Grew up with this guy. I imagine a lot of us did in schoolrooms or on the Disney Channel. Great, all those are fun. I mean, I live in Colorado, so of course you got to have the Super Bowl 50, where the Broncos absolutely dominated the Carolina Panthers. Next, these three. So, as any little boy will know, growing up, there's one thing that all little boys really like to see, and that's dinosaurs. And growing up in my library, there were a number of videos that I would constantly check out and watch. And a bunch of them were on dinosaurs. These two, Dinosaur Digs, A Fossil Finder's Tour, and Dinosaurs Next Exit, Prehistoric Parks Ahead. They were released by Cleveland Video, and which I don't believe is in business anymore. And this, I'm keeping it on the VHS because this is the original case. I was very pleased that I was able to find this in the library book selling off store where they sell off all their old stuff. I was very pleased to find this. It even still had the old address of the library when they moved buildings in the early 2000s. So this is really good. So these two and Eyewitness Dinosaur, the Eyewitness series from the early to mid 90s. This was integral to my childhood, and this is definitely worth checking out. Next, we have a collection of great courses. These are analysis and critique, the art of storytelling, writing creative nonfiction, and history of Hitler's empire, second edition. Just great courses. You buy, I think they're like 50, 60 bucks for one of these or more. I don't remember the prices, but these are definitely worth checking out on that front. Next, The Great Escape, the true story behind my favorite movie of all time, The Great Escape, a Nova documentary. Definitely check this out. Oops. Next, we have Hitler's Lost Sub, the story of a dive team who found a wrecked German World War II U-boat off the coast of New Jersey in the mid-90s, I believe. Next, we have Land of the Mammoth, a documentary narrated by Avery Brooks, the actor who played Captain Benjamin Sisko on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This actually was a gift from one of my grandparents, and this is actually one of the very first DVDs my family ever got. So that's a cool one there. Next, Legendary Muscle Cars. I have an affinity for classic American muscle cars, and this is just again, gift from my grandparents. This is fun. Planet Earth on Blu-ray. Definitely worth getting if you have a high-def TV. I mean, these are just beautiful, beautiful documentaries. I haven't seen Planet Earth 2 yet, except for the one clip of the lizard getting away from the snakes or whatever. I think that was from Planet Earth 2, so I haven't seen that one, but I've been meaning to. Walking with Dinosaurs and Walking with Prehistoric Beasts. Cool documentary on that. Take it with a grain of salt, though. Another one of my very early DVDs, What Killed the Mega Beasts. Cool little documentary on that, Discovery Channel. When We Left Earth, the NASA missions. I really like space exploration as a kid. This is a really great documentary from the Discovery Channel. I believe this was 2008 or 9, I believe, using archived footage from NASA. Definitely worth check this out. I believe this is a steelbook. Yep. Next, The World at War. Great documentary. However, if you're a fan of World War II history, this was filmed in the early to mid 1970s. So some of the things that they talk about in this were later disproven, actually, when the Soviet Union collapsed, and Western historians were able to get access to the archives of the Soviet Union. So a lot of things they talk about in the Soviet Union here were later disproven, but otherwise it's still a groundbreaking documentary. Definitely worth checking that out. And World War II Air War, just a collection of random training videos, propaganda videos from World War II that the U.S. put out for the Army Air Forces, some war footage as well. So again, that's really cool. So that's just my little nonfiction section on that front. And then let us get into the letters of the alphabet as we go forward, starting with the letter A. We have Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and When Nature Calls. Great movie when I was growing up. Next we have Air Force One, great flick. Probably one of my favorite Harrison Ford performances outside of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Next we have Airplane and Airplane 2, great comedies. And these are, I would say, this is the definition of timeless comedies. Aladdin, VHS, obviously. In the Alien quadrilogy, I have Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. So there's that. Alien Covenant. I do have Prometheus, but I only have that on digital, unfortunately. I've been meaning to get one of those lately. All the President's Men, great film with Robert Redford and young Robert Redford and very young Dustin Hoffman as well, about the reporting into the Watergate scandal. All Quiet on the Western Front. This is not the most famous version that everyone's familiar with. This was a TV movie from 1979 with, there aren't really a lot of names you'll be familiar with except for Ernest Borgnine. He plays a part in this. This is just the version that I saw in history class in high school, I think. So that's the version that I kept on that front. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I waited a long time for the price to drop on Amazing Spider-Man 2 before I bought it. I think I got it at like $3.50, and that's about as much as it's worth, honestly. American Made. If you saw, I reviewed this on my channel in 2017. It's just a fun film. It's it's, I think, as the director said, it's a fun story. It's a fun lie based on a true story. So it's just a fun movie. And again, that Cold War history playing into that as well. That's fun for me. Anastasia, the Warner Brothers, I believe this is Warner Brothers, yes? Or 20th Century Fox, sorry, 20th Century Fox film. And I mean, yes, it's all a bunch of crap as far as historical goes. But again, it's that same sort of historical period that you can kind of I can kind of see, and I saw this growing up, so fun little thing there. National Lampoon's Animal House, definitely worth checking out at least once. Seminal college film, even though this is definitely not the traditional college experience that a lot of us will have. Apocalypse Now, this has both the theatrical cut and the redux, so this is definitely worth checking out. It's kind of a long film. I definitely recommend seeing both just to compare and contrast, and to see all the creative decisions behind this. Again, military history, but also this is definitely an iconic film from Francis Ford Coppola. Next we have Apollo 13, great film. Again, NASA, love it. Aquaman, probably my favorite film of 2018. What can you say? It was awesome, and I love Jason Momoa. The Aristocats, VHS, obviously, great. Not my favorite Disney film, but definitely worth a watch on that front. Next we have Argo. Again, Cold War history. Won Best Picture, I believe, in 2012. I think that's when this came out. Anyway, this is, I mean, again, they omit certain things with the Canadians that they kind of half push in at the very end, but still, very good film. Ben Affleck did a good job with this. Next we have Arrival. Great film. I saw it on a recommendation of a friend. I hadn't seen it when it first came out. I caught it on the tail end of its release at a theater a little further away from me, and I'm glad I did see it in theaters because, I mean, that great scene when they first see the alien ship and the clouds rolling off into the hills. I mean, what can you say? That was a great scene, and Denis Villeneuve did a great job with this. Whoop. Next we have Atlantis: The Lost Empire, a rather underrated Disney film, and I'd say I like this just because of its relation. I liked it as a kid just because it's cool sci-fi and Disney, yay, but I also like it just because it's very closely resembling the original Stargate, and Milo Thatch is a very transparent copy of Daniel Jackson from Stargate. So again, I love it, and I think it's underrated. You should definitely see it if you haven't. Next, we have Atomic Blonde, my favorite film of 2017. One of the directors of John Wick, and it definitely showed, especially in the hallway scene. And again, Cold War, I got to go to Berlin a few years ago, and I loved being there and seeing all the Cold War stuff that happened in the city and how it grew. And then this went into all of that, plus great action and a story and I saw it at just the right time of day. When I had a bad day when I saw this, and then when I saw it in theaters, it's like, I just loved it because I didn't know what to expect, and I got blown away by this. Definitely check this out. Austin Powers 3-film collection, great. Avatar. This is definitely one that should get on Blu-ray. I have it on the DVD copy right now. Again, if you the story, yes, but it's Ferngully, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, yeah. But again, the visuals definitely worth checking out. And if you ignore all that, it's a great action. It's a good action. It's a decent action film. Definitely worth checking that out. We have The Aviator, Leonardo DiCaprio, great film. I love that military history and that historical figure. Wait a minute. Yeah. Howard Hughes. I forgot his name for a second. Yeah, Howard Hughes, Aviator, great film. Definitely check it out. And lastly, A's AVP, Alien vs. Predator. I know a lot of people don't like this film because it's PG-13, but I mean, they get away with a lot for PG-13, and I mean, it's just a fun film. And before I was able to see either Alien or Predator proper, I got to see this, and this honestly was my first exposure to either Alien or Predator, and it was fun as a teenager growing up, and I still think it's fun. So there you go, definitely worth checking that out. All right, apologies for the jump cut. I had to reset the camera. Next we go into the Bees, which is Babe and Babe Pickin' the City. I remember seeing Babe Pickin' the City in theaters, actually, and I only remember one scene from it, and that's about it. I don't know, it was just cheap, and I really bought this just for the first Babe, which is a classic. Next we have Back to the Future, the trilogy, great. Then we have Balto and Balto 2 Wolf's Quest. Again, I really only bought this just for the first Balto, which is one of my childhood films growing up. And Balto 2 Wolf's Quest is just weird. If you want to watch it, go ahead, but it's weird. If you want a Cliff's Notes version, watch the Nostalgia Critics review of Balto 2. Yeah, that's about all it's worth. Bambi on VHS, worth it. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. I know a lot of people hate this. I enjoyed it. And I'm able to just sit back and enjoy it for what it is and have a good time. That's my piece on it. Battle of Britain, 1960s. It has an all-star cast of. It has Michael Caine, Ian McShane, if you don't know that, Laurence Olivier, Robert Shaw, Christopher Plummer. All-star cast, one of those epic World War II films. Battle of the Bulge, another one of those epic all-star war films. Henry Fonda, Robert Ryan, Robert Shaw. A lot of this is it's not particularly historically accurate as far as a lot of things, but it's a fun watch every now and then. Beauty and the Beast, VHS. Beetlejuice. I mean, great. We have Ben-Hur. This is one I definitely need to rebuy on Blu-ray because I love this film. This is set the record for the most Academy Award wins with 11, which was only tied with was only been tied since, but with Titanic and Return of the King. And from what I hear, the Blu-ray remaster of this is exceptional. This is one that definitely deserves a Blu-ray remaster. I've been meaning to rebuy this on Blu-ray. Next we have The Big Red One. worth it because this is one of those. I believe this was being made. This is being made right before Star Wars came out, and it stars Mark Hamill. So, and he's not really a humongous character in this, but I think they kind of boosted him after Star Wars became humongous, and I believe this was 1980. So this is right around release between Empire and Return of the Jedi as far as time, years go. Next we have a 4-pack. I've been meaning to break this up into a couple of different ones. We have 2 Jim Carreys, Liar Liar and Bruce Almighty. I mean, I filed this under B just because of Bruce Almighty. Or Billy Madison, I'm sorry, Billy Madison. Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. All these are, I personally like all of these comedies, even though Bruce Almighty, yeah, it's not the best, but I still enjoy it. Next we have Blade Runner, The Final Cut. Don't watch the theatrical cut because it's horrible. The director's cut and the final cut, I don't know if there's a humongous amount of difference between the two. I've only seen the final cut, but it's definitely worth checking out the original Blade Runner at least once, except not the theatrical version. That's horrible. Blade Runner 2049, definitely a great sequel. Again, Denis Villeneuve, great director of our times. Next we have Blades of Glory, dumb comedy, love it. Blazing Saddles, iconic comedy, Mel Brooks, love it. I have the Bourne collection, which I believe this is just the first 4. Bourne Identity, Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum, and Bourne Legacy. It has the place for the Jason Bourne, but I saw it wasn't all that great a film, so I haven't gotten around to buying that on it, obviously. Next we have Braveheart. Again, not very historically accurate, but it's a great war film. Brave Little Toaster. This is one that I grew up with, and I rewatched this recently, and it's a lot more messed up, honestly, than I remember as a child. Appliances just get straight up murdered, so there's that. So it's like Toy Story, but more intense, honestly. So if you haven't seen this, go check it out. And honestly, actually, a lot of the people who worked on this actually went on to work for Pixar. There's even a A113 reference in this. Yeah, a fun fact with that. Next we have Bridge of Spies. Again, Cold War, love it. Tom Hanks, great. I just love this film. It's not the most action-packed film, but I find it very interesting. Definitely worth checking out. Next we have Bridge on the River Kwai, classic war film. Alec Guinness not being Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's definitely worth checking out. Again, not the most historically accurate, but definitely worth checking out. I believe this won Best Picture in 1957, so there you go. Next we have A Bridge Too Far. I believe this is one of the last of the great all-star cast war films, because this got James Caan, Michael Caine, Sean Connery, Elliot Gould, Gene Hackman, Anthony Hopkins, Laurence Olivier, Robert Redford. If you don't know any of those names, they're greats of their time. So definitely go check this out. This might be worth getting in Blu-ray again. I bought this a while ago. It's fine on DVD, but this might be worth getting again in Blu-ray. Bug's Life. I think I got this on the discount rack. I think it's fine. Bullets, classic Steve McQueen. I mean, I love classic cars, and the chase between the Dodge 67, or I believe it's 66, so 66 Dodge Charger and the Mustang 2+2, so worth it just for that scene alone. And Bumblebee, great film, probably one of the best of the Transformers films, best since the first, probably a little better than that. Going to the seas here, we have Casablanca. I mean, if you people haven't seen this, go check it out. It's an amazing film. Castaway, great film, Tom Hanks. Wilson. Next we have Charlie Brown Christmas. I mean, classic, probably play it every year, obviously. Charlie Brown triple feature, I have A Boy Named Charlie Brown, Snoopy Come Home, and Happy New Year Charlie Brown. Might seem like an odd assortment. Actually, I mean, if you can't tell, I made the case, the flip cover for this. These I actually are transferred from the VHS copy, a recording that we recorded off TV back in the late 80s, early 90s. My parents recorded it, so this is what we grew up with. I just transferred it onto DVD. I'm probably gonna have to rebuy these just because the recording, when I transferred them, it has that definite buzz of a VHS and it doesn't sound very good. So, and I mean, the quality is definitely not that great either, so I'm gonna have to rebuy these. Next we have Chicken Run. This isn't that my version, but this is also one of the very first DVDs that my family ever got. I mean, it's worth checking out. It's fun. It's goofy. And if you compare this to The Great Escape, they're basically the same. This is basically the kid version of The Great Escape, which is my favorite movie. We'll get to into that in a second. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, classic. Not really worth rewatching all that often, but again, classic. We have Christmas Story. Again, play it every year. Christmas Vacation, classic. Play it every year. You're gonna hear that a lot in this. The Rankin Bass Christmas specials. I think I filed this in just because of Christmas. This is Frosty the Holiday 4. Frosty the Snowman, Little Drummer Boy, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I made this slipcover to make it look like the VHS cover that we have it. Again, these are transfers from the VHS that I own. So I want these just because the tapes are starting to wear out and I want to keep them forever. Same thing with these. The Chronicles of Narnia, this is the 1988, 89, and 90. These were played on the BBC. These were actually miniseries that I transferred these on from VHS because BBC actually released these on DVD proper, but while the VHS actually cut them up into a one continuous, if long, movie on VHS, the DVD version that was officially put out by the BBC, they actually just put the it was actually originally aired as like half-hour segments on the BBC in the late 80s, and they have the credits every one. So if you just hit play all, you get the credits every half hour, and it's really freaking annoying. So that's why I transferred from my VHSs into this, and I created the slipcover for that. That's been my hobby of late, to make it look like the VHS cover from that. Again, the tapes were starting to wear out on these, so I wanted to transfer them while I still could. Next we have the modern Chronicles of Narnia, now Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe on Blu-ray, Prince Caspian on Blu-ray, and Voyage of the Dawn Treader on DVD. That one wasn't all that great, in my opinion. Citizen Kane, great film, classic film, and if you haven't seen this before, and if you're used to modern films, you might watch Citizen Kane and find it boring and feel like, what is the big deal about it? Because it looks like a modern film, and that's what makes it so amazing. It was a modern film in 1941. It made all of these things that we are used to today. It was the first film to do that, and it was amazing. It's amazing from a filmmaking point of view. Definitely worth checking that out. Clash of the Titans. This is the 1981 version, I want to say. Wait a minute. Hang on. Yes, 1981. This is the original version before we got Liam Neeson saying release the Kraken. We had Laurence Olivier as Zeus. Not Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier? No, we had Burgess Meredith. No, Laurence Olivier is... Actually, yes, I think it is. Anyway, this is the original version. Definitely worth checking out. This is the one that I grew up with on DVD, and I have the new Clash of the Titans on digital. This was so much better, honestly, and yeah, definitely check this out. Next we have Con Air, great dumb action film from the 90s, Nicolas Cage, amazing. Then we have Cool Hand Luke, definitely a classic, Paul Newman. What we got here is A Failure to Communicate. I think I got this at the $4 bin in Best Buy, and it's worth a watch. Next we have Crimson Tide. Great war film, submarine, one of the great submarine films, of which there aren't a whole lot, so definitely check this out. Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman. Getting to the D's, we have Dances with Wolves, whatever, it's fine. Dark Crystal, grew up with it, awesome, definitely check it out. Be sure to look for my review of the Netflix prequel series, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Next we have The Dark Knight trilogy, I have these separate, but then I combined them into one case. So Dark Knight Rises, and Batman Begins. So all of these are great films. I mean, Dark Knight Rises isn't my favorite, but I appreciate for what it was trying to do. Darkest Hour, great war film. I think Gary Oldman did great as Winston Churchill. This is definitely one of those that it worked. Again, it's one of those, it works as a companion piece to Dunkirk, actually. If you watch these back to back, that'd be a long movie session, but it's a cool companion piece to that. Next we have The Day After Tomorrow, dumb disaster film, but I like it just for that reason. Deadpool, I mean, it's awesome. I love Deadpool. I had a good time when I bought this on the opening night when it first came out on Blu-ray. Deadpool 2, great, worthy sequel to Deadpool. I would say it's just, if the first Deadpool's right here, Deadpool 2 is like right around there. It's just a little bit not as good, but it's still pretty darn good. A couple of classic war films, The Desert Fox and The Desert Rats. Desert Fox, about Erwin Rommel. James Mason, I believe this is 1954. 51. Desert Rats, the name for the British 7th Armored, I believe, who was trapped in Tobruk in North Africa during World War II. Great war film. It's a classic war film. I wouldn't say it's a great war film, I should say. It's decent, worth a watch on that front. Destroy All Monsters. Classic Godzilla right here. Get all the guys right here on that one, so that was fun. Next we have Die Hard, classic. I mean, come on. This is of course it's a Christmas film as well. So, Dinosaur. I'd say this hasn't aged as well as they would have liked, but I saw it as a kid, and it's like, and I watch it now. I mean, I probably watch it just because it's dinosaurs. I mean, I love dinosaurs. Dinotopia, actually. This is based on the books that my dad would read me growing up, and I still have them. And then this was the miniseries based on those books, which aired on ABC, 3-part miniseries that was released aired on ABC in 2002, I believe. And we had all these recorded on VHS at one point off the TV, and then when they released it on DVD, my parents still have the copy that we bought, but I think I bought this as a 2-pack, and then I took it out. The other one the other thing that came with it I didn't want, so I took it and made a slipcover for it, and now it's definitely worth a watch. I think it's 4 hours combined. It's a long watch, but it's worth watching if you love dinosaurs. And Wentworth Miller from Prison Break is in this, as well as David Thewlis from Harry Potter is where you know him probably. So worth a watch. Next we have The Dirty Dozen, classic war film. I mean, great, definitely. Dr. Strangelove, or How to Learn to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Stanley Kubrick, great classic film, some classic scenes, classic lines. I mean, this is the war room. Yeah, there's no place to start a fight, or something to that effect. Perfect. And Dodgeball, dumb comedy from 2004. Love it. I mean, although the thing with Lance Armstrong hasn't aged well, obviously. And Dunkirk, worth a watch on a high-def TV. And not necessarily the most rewatchable, I would say, but I mean, for stunning visuals, and again, that World War II, love it. So we're checking out on that front. Sorry, another jump cut, another camera reset. Moving on here, we have going into the E's. We have The Eagle Has Landed, another war film with Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, and Donald Sutherland. I wouldn't call this a classic. I think this is a bargain bin thing. It's worth a watch, I think, but pretty much only a watch. Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. One of the best films of the 2010s, I think. Definitely underrated. I saw this in college, and I mean, it was so good. It's so, I mean, we should reward things like this, and this did not do well at the box office, but thankfully it's become more appreciated over the years, and now it's getting a sequel. So hopefully that sequel's good. Emperor's New Groove, fun Disney. Empire of the Sun, great. great war film, Steven Spielberg, I believe, and very young Christian Bale. So fun on that front. Enemy at the Gates, cool. Enemy Below, one of the great submarine films. As I said, there aren't a whole ton of great submarine films, but this is one of them. Robert Mitchum and Kurt Jurgens. Kurt Jurgens, you might know from James Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me. You know from there, so great war film on that front. And of course, E.T., the extraterrestrial, great film. Moving on to the Fs, we have Fantasia on VHS. This is kind of a hefty VHS. I think it's a long film, so that's probably why. We have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is the only good Fantastic Beasts movie. There's a reason why I didn't. It was recently on the bargain bin at Walmart for like, it was down to $10 for the DVD at Walmart. That's still too much, honestly. I did not like that film at all. Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. Not the best comic book movies, definitely from that dark age of comic book movies of the early to mid 2000s, but I mean, it's dumb, but I still kind of enjoy them. Next we have Fantastic Voyage, pretty cool sci-fi medical mystery film where they have a Cold War defector who is poisoned and they have to get the medicine to him in time, but the only way to do that apparently is to miniaturize a submarine and put it into the bloodstream with these people so that they can administer the medicine at the proper point in order to save his brain. I mean, it's ludicrous, but hey, it's a cool sci-fi film. It had some groundbreaking visual effects for its time. The Fast and the Furious collection, I have from the first Fast and the Furious all the way to Fate of the Furious in this collection. I made the case for this, or the slipcover for this, to combine all of those. I got just 12 discs worth in here, so I've said my thoughts on these in the past. I think I've reviewed Fate of the Furious on my channel before, and I mean, quality's gone up and down on this, but I still love all of these just because, I mean, I do it for the cars. It's great. And, I mean, for family, obviously. We got Fern Gully, Fern Gully Lost Rainforest. Again, I appreciate that it's ironic that this is a message to save the rainforest, but it was traditionally animated, so it used a crap ton of paper to get this that was made from rainforest trees. So I appreciate that irony, but again, I grew up with this. This is a classic film that I grew up with. This is integral to my childhood. I love it just for nostalgia alone. Next we have Ferris Bueller's Day Off, classic film. Fight Club, great film with that. So before I get into this next one, I say I have some integral childhood films, and a bunch of these childhood films were made by the same studio. I'd mentioned that in my Christmas view, those 4 classic Christmas films were all made by Rankin Bass Studios, or Productions, should say. Yeah, both stop motion animation and traditional animation. A lot of Rankin Bass films were integral to my childhood, and this is one of them. The Flight of Dragons, definitely worth checking out if you love classic 80s animation. It's based on a book, I believe, and yeah, it's integral to my childhood. It's worth it. It has James Earl Jones voicing the villain, so I mean, how can you say no to that? Flyboys, again, historical accuracy, pretty much nothing, but I love World War military history, World War I history, and yeah, cool. Focus, I only saw this once. I enjoyed it. I need to rewatch this to see if I really liked it as much as I did. I think I got this for like $6 at Best Buy, so not a huge loss, but I need to rewatch this to reevaluate it. Forbidden Planet, classic sci-fi right here, man. Forrest Gump. Again, appreciate it for what it is, the times that it is. Soundtrack is incredible, at least for that. Fox and the Hound, VHS, classic. The Fugitive, cool. Fury, again, military film. I have a friend who hates this film because he says that the final battle is completely ludicrous. I can't honestly disagree with him on that, but I mean, I love it for a war film. I like it that much. Going into the G's, we have Galaxy Quest. Love it. Great film. One one of the best parody films of the modern age, I'd say. I mean, this is still 1990s, so not even the modern age. We've lost the ability to do great parodies like this, I think. Game Night. I got this for $10 at Walmart. I don't regret getting it. I hadn't seen it before. I bought it blind. I don't regret buying it. This is one of the best comedies I've seen in the last couple of years. Definitely worth checking that out. Next we have Ghost Rider. It's stupid, I know. I like Nicolas Cage, and I guess I'm a sucker for when Ghost Rider's actually on the screen. He's awesome. Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. Blu-ray, worth it, definitely. There's another one worth it from my childhood. I have a lot of classic Godzilla. This is one of the first custom slipcovers that I made it look like the VHS for Godzilla versus Megalon. They were never on top of the World Trade Center. This was they made the poster to look like this because the American remake of King Kong had come out right around this time, and they wanted to make it look kind of like that. King Kong was climbing the World Trade Center in that film. So this is dumb, but I love it. Again, Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Dumb, but I love it. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah and Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth. These are all dumb, but I love them so much because they're so dumb and they're so enjoyable. And Mothra and the weird fairy twins and the immortal lines from this film, which is the fairy twins have shamed an executive, and he says, I think it's probably the dub, but it's like, I have cut down trees. I am so ashamed. So you should be. The 1998 Godzilla, 98, 97. Again, it's dumb. It's not the best Godzilla by far, but I grew up, it's nostalgic. I watch it just because for that matter alone, and it's dumb fun. Godzilla 2000, this one, again, one of the first DVDs that my family bought, found on Blu-ray. This is worth seeing because this is the right amount of balance of serious and stupid and fun, and this is the great graphic, great. If you don't like how cheesy the earlier Godzillas are, this still has the guys in suits, but it looks so much better than those older ones. Definitely worth checking that out. The 2014 Godzilla, not the best ever. I agree, probably should have used more Godzilla and stopped cutting away from the action when it gets good, but I still enjoy it. I liked Godzilla King of the Monsters more than some, I think. Gone 60 Seconds, Nicolas Cage. There's a line in this movie that pretty much sums up why I love this film. He says, I didn't do it for the money, I did it for the cars. I don't watch this for the plot. I don't watch this for the acting, which is fine, but not great. I watch it for the cars, and boy, is there great car stuff in here. Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Great. There's a reason why I kept this. I had bought it on Blu-ray at one point, but in the remaster of this, not only did they have to redub Eli Wallach's audio with a voice actor because he had died and couldn't come in and re-record it, but they changed the sound effects of the guns and the cannons and all that stuff, and that's the sort of thing that kind of bothers me when I watch something like this, and it's definitely a classic. That's why I kept it on the DVD version. So there's that. Next we have Good Morning Vietnam. Great Robin Williams performance, great war film. The Goonies. I found this at the bargain bin, and I know it's essential to a lot of childhoods out there, but I only saw this last year, and the first half is not great in my opinion, and the second half only is marginally better and just kind of it comes out as a wash for me. So I just haven't gotten around to getting rid of this, honestly. I'm sorry. It's just not for me. Great Escape, my favorite movie of all time. I had this on DVD, and on my TV, the DVD version, it has the widescreen bars, obviously, but then it has the widescreen bars on all sides, so it just kind of zip on the screen, and it didn't look all that great. So then I got it on a DVD. It looks so much better. This is one of those instances where the HD remaster did a great job with this. Next, Great Train Robbery. This is kind of a hard find thing nowadays, but I bought this for a school project, and I think it's a great film. I liked the book. Sean Connery and Donald Sutherland. This is 1858. Or it's set in 1858. This is 1978. 1978, the movie. It's worth checking out if you can find it. Gremlins, classic. Gulliver's Travels. This is the 1937, I believe, Max Fleischer cartoon, which is now in the public domain, I believe. And this is definitely worth checking out at least once. And this is one of those that I grew up with as well. The Guns of Navarone, great war film. It's definitely a classic. Not my favorite war film, but definitely worth checking out. Moving on into the H's, Hacksaw Ridge. Great. I enjoyed this film much. Again, World War II. Hancock. Hancock. Not the best superhero film, but I like the first half definitely. The first half boozed me up just enough so that I can kind of get over the second half. Hang 'em High. Whatever. It's a Clint Eastwood western. It's fine. The Harry Potter collection. I was able to get the custom slipcover for this and the set for all those discs I'd collected over the years. Hellboy, the 2004 Hellboy. Watch this version. Do not watch the 2019 David Harbour one. That was compared to this. That was horrible. Compared to a lot of things, it was horrible. Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, cool. Hercules, VHS. Hidalgo, again, not the most historically accurate ever, but I enjoy it. Hidden Figures, great film if you've never seen it, from 2016. Great untold story. These ladies definitely deserve their story to be told. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, great film. I mean, not great. I shouldn't say it's great in terms of cinematic history, but I still enjoy it. The 1977 Hobbit, Rankin Bass, again, this is integral to my childhood, and because I watched this and the animated Lord of the Rings before the movies came out, the Peter Jackson movies came out, these were the things that these were the basis point from which I was judging the modern, the live action films, and this still better than the Peter Jackson Hobbits. I mean, I feel like we bought these as a family, and I got the DVD versions. They're fine. I mean, still watch the animated Hobbit, so much better. Home Alone, classic. Homeward Bound, again, childhood classic. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, watch it every year. Hunchback of Notre Dame. This has the sequel. I haven't seen that. I don't plan on seeing it. Hunchback of Notre Dame, it's a lot darker than I remember, honestly, but hey, that's Disney for you. Hunt for Red October, probably the best submarine film that's ever been made, honestly. And yes, Sean Connery's a Russian, but he has a Scottish accent, whatever. Into the Eyes, I Am Legend. I like this film even though the alternate ending would have made it a lot better. I, Robot. I know it's not a great film, but I like it anyway, and this is the film, actually, because I saw this in theaters. Let's see, how old was I? I was 11 when this film came out, and I credit this film because Will Smith's character wears Converse All-Stars. I wore Converse All-Stars for a decade straight before I got a different kind of shoe. That's how this film impacted me. Not a great film overall, but I like it for that reason, that connection to my childhood. Ice Age 2, and Ice Age 3, they're fun animated films. I maintain these are the only good Ice Age films. 4 and 5 are horrid. Inception, I need to rebuy this on Blu-ray. Definitely worth it. Incredibles, great Disney, Pixar. Incredibles 2, great film, not as good as the first one, I think, but still solid. Next, Independence Day. Pretend there was never a sequel to that, honestly. Indiana Jones 1, 2, and the first 3, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Got this bargain bin. That's the only reason I have it. Next, In the Eyes, Iron Giant, classic animated film. Brad Bird. he earned The Incredibles with this one. The Island, definitely an underrated Michael Bay film. If you think Michael Bay is terrible because of the Transformers films, you have that right, but give this a chance. It's good for him. Yeah, a lot happened on that last jump cut, didn't it? So let's see here. Where was I? I was just finished Eyes, and oh, I forgot. The Abyss is another A film. My first A film that got knocked off over there. So there goes to that. The J's. Let's get into the J's. All right. First off, we have my custom James Bond, the complete collection. I got all 24 from Dr. No to Spectre. Looking forward to Bond 25 on that one. Jason and the Argonauts, classic Ray Harryhausen stop motion classic film. This is definitely worth a watch just for that classic animation style. We have the first Jaws, the classic Jaws, definitely worth seeing if you haven't. John Wick and John Wick 2. Great modern action films, probably responsible for the Keanu-sance that we are currently going through right now. Joseph, King of Dreams, childhood movie on that one. Journey to the Center of the Earth, this is 1959. This version with Pat Boone, James Mason, classic. Got some pretty cheesy blue screen effects by modern standards, but it's still pretty entertaining on that front. The original Jumanji, classic. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. I had a lot of fun with this one. I wasn't sure what to expect going into this, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching that one. The Jurassic Park original trilogy. Jurassic World DVD, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The only reason I have this, I was not a humongous fan of this. It was $7 at Walmart on Black Friday, and that's like, all right, that's about as much as I would want to pay for that. So there's that one. Justice League. Yes, it had problems. Yes, it could have been a whole lot better. I don't care about the Snyder Cut, honestly. It definitely does feel like two directors' visions clashing against one another, but I still enjoy it for what it is. Let's see here. We got the K's. Karate Kid, classic. Kelly's Heroes, another great World War II film if you haven't seen this before. A lot of big names, mainly Clint Eastwood, Donald Sutherland, Telly Savalas, Don Rickles, Carol O'Connor. You may know him as Archie Bunker from All in the Family if you're into that sort of thing. Definitely worth check this out. King Kong, the original, the classic, definitely gotta have it. King of Kings, classic epic biblical movie. Kingdom of Heaven, sort of an underrated Ridley Scott film. It's got some issues. I believe this is the Ultimate Edition, so this is the director's cut. It is a long movie. If you're not into this sort of epic, the sword and sandal film, this probably wouldn't be the one to start out with, but it's definitely worth a watch. Kingsman, Secret Service, and The Golden Circle. I thought the first one was definitely enjoyable. The second one was enjoyable enough, but it definitely started to wear its welcome there. K-19, The Widowmaker. I believe this is still the highest grossing independent film ever made, which I believe this is directed by, let's see here, who's it directed by? I know the name. Oh, Catherine Bigelow. That's right, Catherine Bigelow. Yes, she directed this with Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson. True story with the Soviet submarine K-19. Great movie. Kong Skull Island. I definitely enjoyed this. Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu Panda 2. Fun films. Good family films. I actually saw Kung Fu Panda in the Bahamas for the first time. That was when it first came out. So interesting. That was a fun movie to see on vacation, I guess. Lady and the Tramp, definitely on VHS. Land Before Time, the original, the only one worth owning. I remember seeing some of the sequels when I was younger, but I don't recommend rewatching those. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's dumb, I know. It's boring to a lot of people. I enjoy it. I enjoy the steampunk atmosphere of it and the literary characters getting to interact with one another. I mean, it could have been a whole lot better, but I enjoy it for what it is. Lego Movie. I enjoyed it. I'm probably not going to go out and buy the Lego Movie second part until the price comes down on that. Les Miserables, not the musical version. This is the non-musical, I believe, 1996? Or 1998, I'm sorry, with Liam Neeson, Jeffrey Rush, and Uma Thurman. This is the version. It's definitely worth checking out if you like the story and you're not humongously into all the kinds of musicals or seeing Russell Crowe sing. Lincoln, classic historical drama. Lion King VHS. Little Mermaid VHS. Childhood right there. Little Shop of Horrors, great musical with this. I've seen the alternate ending. It probably would have been better. I don't know. I still like it as it is, and the soundtrack's awesome on this. The Longest Day, one of the best all-star cast war films out there, featuring a pre-James Bond Sean Connery in this, among a whole bunch of other people. So Lord of the Rings, I have the theatrical versions on DVD and the extended versions on Blu-ray. I like the extended versions. They're excellent, but I don't know, some things I feel like the theatrical version did better and the extended cut did not improve certain aspects, especially with the way it used music, the score punctuating certain scenes differently that I thought were more effective in the theatrical cut than the extended. If you haven't seen both, I recommend seeing both, just a fun compare and contrast on that one. Okay, we are in the M's. All right, the M's. Mad Max. I got the collection all on Blu-ray of the original Mad Max, The Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and Mad Max Fury Road. All of these are worth seeing. I'm assuming a lot of people have seen Fury Road in recent years. It's definitely a modern classic, but definitely worth checking out the first three with Mel Gibson, just because they're definitely classics, and especially Beyond Thunderdome's a fun, cheesy film to see. Man of Steel, again, the DCEU, it's the start of that. Yeah, he didn't have to break Zod's neck, but I mean, yeah, whatever. I enjoy it for what it is. Man from U.N.C.L.E., an underrated film, I think, from Guy Ritchie. Again, I love it because of the Cold War atmosphere of it, but beyond that, just I don't think it does really good job of action, of character dialogue between character interaction, and I thought that the music works really well too. I love all the music that this works in too, and the visual design of it. I think this is definitely an underrated film. If you haven't seen this before, definitely go check this out. And you might, up until this point, you might be wondering why I don't have any of the Marvel films like Captain America or Doctor Strange would have been earlier in the alphabetically. That's why. That's because I decided to combine. I figure whenever you refer to like Captain America or Iron Man or something, it's like if no one knows what it is, it's a Marvel film. So that's why I decided to lean into that, and I made all of my Marvel Cinematic Universe custom cases to combine all of them. I have Phase 1 right here, which is the first 6, so Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America the First Avenger, and the Avengers. Phase 2, which is the next 6, which is Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America Winter Soldier, which is in my opinion, one of my favorite of the MCU, and probably one of the top 3 superhero movies of all time. Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. And Phase 3, which I had to break up a whole bunch just because I have like Blu-ray and DVD copies and all that in there. So that's, of course, Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Avengers Endgame. So I have all that on there. So that's all of those. And I'll probably have to start a Phase 4 thing, starting with Spider-Man Far From Home, once that comes out on Blu-ray. Next we have The Mask, definitely a classic Jim Carrey. We have the Matrix collection, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, and Animatrix. I like parts of the Animatrix. I don't like the whole thing. I mean, Matrix is definitely a trendsetter, as I have a video on my channel explaining that. Matrix Reloaded, I like more than most probably do. I like the action of it. And Matrix Revolutions, I think it's just boring, honestly. Megamind, the Men in Black trilogy. I did a review of Men in Black International. I thought that it tried its best. It just didn't pull it off. Midway, another classic war film with Charlton Heston. Million Ways to Die in the West. I don't care what you say. I enjoy this film. It's dumb, I know. I like Seth MacFarlane. I think that I enjoy it, especially with a drink. This is technically an A, but I file it under M just because it's The Adventures of Milo and Otis. I kept this as the VHS because I have a lot of memories when I was a child. My family had a cat that was, by the time my first memories of it, it was definitely at the later end of life. She was confined to the basement, and I kept her company while watching this. So fond childhood memories of that. Minority Report, great Steven Spielberg movie. Definitely worth checking out. Miracle on 34th Street. This is the version you want to see. The original 1947. Do not watch the Mara Wilson remake version. This is the one to see. And for crying out loud, people, watch it in black and white. Don't watch it in the colorized version. Just come on. You can appreciate black and white. Mission Impossible, the first 5, and Mission Impossible Fallout, which I believe is Steelbook. Great, all these great movies. I don't like 2 as much. I mean, who likes 2, honestly? But so there's that. Mr. Deeds, dumb comedy, but there's some good lines in there. Monsters vs. Aliens, fun little film. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, classic. So many quotable lines. Gotta have it. Mulan on VHS. The Mummy trilogy. I mean, I think the original, the first Brendan Fraser Mummy is cheesy fun. It's supposed to be a modern B movie, and I think it works out well. The Mummy 2, Mummy Returns, not as much, but I think it's cool that I remember how it tied in more into the Mummy cartoon, which I watched briefly. And Mummy 2 and the Dragon Emperor, not my favorite, but I like it, and I think the ending theme song is one of my favorite scores, pieces of instrumental music from movies. So there's that. We also have the Muppet Movie, so classic there. Ends, only a couple ends. National Treasure 1 and 2. Love Nicolas Cage in those. Never-Ending Story, 80s classic. Night at the Museum, the three collection. The first one's the only really good one. The second one's just kind of okay. And the third one, I did not particularly like. It came with the collection. What are you going to do? It's the O's. We got the O's. We got Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? This is probably the only real Coen Brothers movie that I actually enjoy. I didn't like Hail Caesar. I saw Big Lebowski. I was not a humongous fan of it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite. I haven't seen a whole lot of others, so that may change over time. But at the moment, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is probably my favorite of the Coen Brothers movie, of what sample size I have. Ocean's 11, the remake. I've seen the original 1960s with the Rat Pack, and it's fine. I like it. I mean, I appreciate what it is, but I don't like people when they just don't buy it just because this is a good movie. It's worth seeing the original, but the original Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12. I still haven't seen Ocean's 13, actually. That might be a I've never seen it before review coming up. I don't know. October Sky, great movie if you haven't seen it. Jake Gyllenhaal, Laura Dern, great story of these guys. They do a good job with it. Office Space, I mean, come on, who doesn't? If you're in the working world and in a white collar job, you need to watch Office Space. Come on. And Oliver and Company. this is probably one of the least known, not least known, but this is not a Disney film that gets talked about very often, and I think that's a shame because I like this film. It's a decent film. Go check it out. All right, another edit, another camera reset, another jump cut. If you've gotten to this point of the movie, for movies starting with P and R, you might notice that this is a slightly different camera angle. That's just because for some reason my camera actually didn't record this segment, so that's why I'm gonna have to redo it out of order, out of my contiguous order from when I did it. But anyways, that's some behind the scenes action there. So let's get into my movies to start with. P, starting with Pacific Rim. First one's definitely worth a watch. Second one, it had a great first like third, I think, the first quarter, I guess, and then the rest was just kind of boring. But this is dumb fun action done right in the modern age. Definitely worth a watch there. Passengers. This is a film that I reviewed early on for my channel, and I thought that this was a great premise that unfortunately the execution didn't go off as well as it probably could have, and in my opinion I thought that it kind of wasted a really good premise, but still this is a bargain bin find. It's worth a watch for sure. Next we have Passion of the Christ, great biblical epic there. Next we have Patton. This is definitely one that I need to rebuy for on Blu-ray, because this is probably one that looks really great on Blu-ray, but this just had the DVD. And fun fact, when George C. Scott got the Oscar for Best Actor for this, he was one of only 2 Best Actors to actually decline to accept the award. The other one being Marlon Brando, which I believe, I forget which movie that was for. That might have been The Godfather, I don't remember. But yes, him and Marlon Brando were the ones that refused to actually accept their Best Actor awards. Paycheck. Paycheck is one that is not a great film, I understand that, but I find it fun just because I like the way that the story's structured, especially how Ben Affleck's character has to figure out what everything in the envelope is supposed to do and when he's supposed to use it. So not a great movie, but I think it's a fun one. Peter Pan, VHS, classic. Pinocchio, VHS, again, classic, childhood right there. Then we have Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, and On Stranger Tides. I agree the first one's probably the best, but I still enjoy watching the other ones, except for the 5th one. I'm a completionist, so I'm gonna buy that eventually when the price comes down. Right now, I think the cheapest I saw it was like $10 at Best Buy. That's still too high in my opinion for that. Next we have Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. Classic, definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it before. I've watched the first sequel of this, which was Beneath the Planet of the Apes. That was just kind of weird, and I never got around to seeing, I think there are 3 more sequels after that, and I'm sure they get just weirder and weirder after that. But the first one, definitely worth in your collection. The Planet of the Apes trilogy, which is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. Andy Serkis deserves an Oscar for all this mocap work. He does a great job, especially in War for the Planet of the Apes. That was one that I was really surprised and impressed by. Even though the plot of that movie wasn't great as far as how it was executed, the mocap acting by Andy Serkis was just great in that. Next we have Platoon, solid Vietnam war film with Willem Dafoe and very young Johnny Depp in scenes at that. Pocahontas, classic VHS. Poltergeist. I've only saw this. I only first saw this a few years ago. You've done a good job with a horror film when you're a grown adult, and this still unsettles you enough when you go to sleep that night after you're watching it. So, good job with Steven Spielberg on that one. Silent Adventure. This is one that is one of those I believe this began the 70s trend of disaster films. This was being the first, and I believe Towering Inferno was the one that kind of killed it at the end of the 70s. This is definitely worth a watch. It's got some big names of the era: Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, Red Buttons, Roddy McDowell, Shelley Winters. This is definitely worth a watch if you're used to like the dumb disaster films of Roland Emmerich today, like 2012 or Independence Day or Day After Tomorrow, that, and you think that's too much. This is actually how you could probably do it right, I think. This is definitely worth a watch. I don't know if the remake's any good though. Predator, the triple feature: Predator, Predator 2, and Predators. Predator 2 and Predators are okay, in my opinion. Predator is part of my Halloween night tradition of double feature Alien and Predator back to back. So you get Alien for the sci-fi thrills and suspense and some horror there, and then Predator just for action and awesomeness from Arnold Schwarzenegger on that front. Prince of Egypt. Definitely worth a watch for just animation's sake. Even if you're not into the, even if you don't into the biblical stuff, the animation's great. The voice cast is great. The songs are even great too. So definitely worth a watch on that one. Princess Bride. I mean, what can you say about Princess Bride that hasn't already been said? It's a classic. Pulp Fiction, great Tarantino film. Probably the only real Tarantino film that I actually like. I was not a humongous fan of Inglourious Bastards. Hateful Eight was fine for the first 2/3, and then it kind of, the last third, when he starts narrating it kind of ruined it for me. That's my big sample size of Tarantino, actually. I haven't seen Django or any of his other ones, but I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet. But that's just my opinion as far as that goes. I may change it later on. Rango, getting with the R's now. Rango, fun animated film there. Ratatouille, great Pixar film on that front. Ready Player One, I thought it was fine. I waited until this was like $4 on Walmart on Black Friday to buy this. That's about as much as I thought it was worth. Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn, starring Patrick Swayze, with Charlie Sheen, Leah Thompson, Jennifer Grey, great 80s stars of the teen 80s stars of their day, and it's just a great film. Kind of a time capsule film in a lot of ways, with its depiction of the Cold War and how they thought even in 1984 that the Soviets were going to be able to invade the western part of the U.S. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen, but it's a fun movie nonetheless. Red Tails. Red Tails is one that I thought this is a good film, but I thought it's kind of cheesy in certain ways and not in a good way. And that kind of hurts it in certain elements. But again, World War II films, that's kind of my shtick. So this is a kind of a fun one. The Rescuers and Festival Claymation. You might not think they go together. And they only go together for one reason. This was combined VHS tape that I transferred. The Rescuers off on TV. And then on the same tape was Festival Claymation. And I don't know where you would find that nowadays, but if you can find it, I definitely recommend a watch, just because it's got some great claymation shorts in that that are definitely worth a watch. Rescuers Down Under, fun fact, I was actually named for the little boy in this film, so there you go. Classic. Return of the King, the 1980 Rankin Bass version. Like I said, Rankin Bass was one of those studios. I had a lot of those films growing up, and between The Hobbit and Return of the King, those are the movies that I was basing the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films off of. And while Peter Jackson did Return of the King better from a technical standpoint, story standpoint, a lot of standpoints, this still has a special place in my heart, and I will never stop loving this. Road to El Dorado, great animated film. I enjoy it. It's not like the best film ever, but I still enjoy it. It's got some fun moments. Robin Hood, the animated Disney film, classic. Rocky, the first one. I still haven't seen Rocky 2 or 3 yet, or 5 actually, but I've basically seen most of 4 from all the hilarious reviews that I've seen on YouTube everywhere, but I haven't seen it contiguously from stop to finish. So first one, definitely worth a watch. And the last of the R's is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is a bargain bin, but it's one of those classics that you can watch around Halloween time and appreciate it for what it was. Fun fact though, when Brad and Janet are driving towards Frankenfurter's house, playing on the radio is a recording of Nixon's resignation speech, and that's playing because the director actually wanted something to play that would instantly date the film for that very reason. So, fun fact on that. So that's P and R. Get ready for another jump cut. Another camera reset, another jump cut. So let's get into the S's here. S's. We got a lot of S videos. So Sandlot, childhood classic. How can you not, right? Saving Private Ryan. I have not seen Shakespeare in Love, which I believe was the film that robbed this of Best Picture at the Academy Awards, but I imagine this is probably better. Schindler's List, powerful film, mastery for Steven Spielberg. This is definitely not a popcorn film, let me tell you. Serenity. I mean, I love Firefly, so of course I have Serenity. I do like the suggestion that I read somewhere that if you watch this film, just once the ship crashes on the planet, just fast forward to the next 30 seconds, and then just pretend Wash is injured on the ship and can't get out and participate, and then he'll be fine. So I kind of like that suggestion. Next we have The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which is a classic Ray Harryhausen film. I watched this a lot as a kid. Fun fact, if you see on the cover here, the stop motion skeleton with a sword, there's only one of those in here, but it was so much fun for Ray Harryhausen to do this when he did Jason the Argonaut, that inspired him to put a whole army of fighting stop motion skeletons in that. So that was fun film and classic movie if you haven't seen it. Next we have Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights. Shanghai Noon is fun. Shanghai Nights, it's fine. I like Shanghai Noon a lot better. Shawshank Redemption, great Stephen King adaptation there. Shazam, probably one of my favorite movies of this year so far. We'll see where the rest of them fall in line. I have the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes on digital, but I also have Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows on DVD, which those, I do enjoy those Sherlock Holmes. Guy Ritchie did a good job with those. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, classic, gotta see it. The Shrek 4 movie collection, I still have not seen Shrek Forever After, actually. I don't really have any reason to see it, honestly. Shrek 1 is classic animation. Shrek 2 was a really big sequel animated movie at the time. Shrek 3rd, yeah, whatever. Shrek 4, yeah, no. Simpsons movie, classic. I really want them to do a sequel, but then again, Simpsons hasn't been doing so great these last few years, so I'm kind of concerned about a sequel to the Simpsons movie after all this time, especially how the show's been doing. Sixth Sense, classic, M. Night Shyamalan. Maybe his only good film, except for, I mean, I liked Split, but Sixth Sense is probably the one that everyone can agree is the good one. Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow. I did a review of this just because I like the steampunkness of this. Not steampunk, but retro futuristic, I guess. That can fall into steampunk, right? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe. But I definitely enjoyed the film. Space Jam, I saw this got this in the bargain bin because I only saw it very briefly when I was a kid. This was not really a nostalgic hit for me, and when I saw it with modern eyes, it doesn't really hold up as well as I thought it would. And honestly, I was never really big into basketball as a kid, and I'm still not. So all that thing doesn't really hit me very much. So I don't know. Spaceballs, classic Mel Brooks comedy. They don't make these films like they used to anymore. Speed, great, cheesy action film of the 90s. Arguably transformed Keanu Reeves from the bumbling guy from Bill and Ted to the action star that we all know him as now. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I I admit that the Tom Holland Spider-Man is probably a better Spider-Man, just as far as more comic accurate Spider-Man. But for me, these are the ones I grew up with. These are the ones that I consider my favorite of the Spider-Mans. And I have friends who don't like these, and I understand. I don't care. These are the ones that I prefer. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I missed reviewing this when it first came out. I enjoyed this. It's a great film. I can see why people say this probably is one of the best animated films in recent years, and it definitely needed to be nominated for Best Animated Feature. So yeah, definitely worth seeing. Spies Like Us. Classic, I keep saying classic. This is a classic Cold War comedy with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. It's funny. I enjoy it. It might not be for everyone, honestly, especially people who are used to modern comedy. Spy Kids and Spy Kids 2. This is definitely childhood for me. I actually had this is 2002, I believe. Let me see. Wait a minute. Does it say? Probably says. Actually, no, this is 2004, I want to say. This is the movie I saw for my birthday in 2004. I actually put the movie poster as the invitation. I thought that was really fun back when it was really cool for a little kid to be able to use PowerPoint to create an invitation by posting in the poster. That was a cool achievement back in the day when you were a little kid. But these don't really hold up for me anymore. I don't think there's still this childhood nostalgia surrounding these, but yeah, I don't know. They're fine for what they are, but yeah. Stalag 17, however, this is a good film. I believe this is based on a stage play. This is 1952. This is one of those. This is the series that, if you're familiar with the TV series Hogan's Heroes, this is the film that people said that Hogan's Heroes ripped off. It's still a great prisoner of war film, and it's cool mystery. I think it's cool. It's definitely worth a watch. We got the original series Star Trek films, so Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, Final Frontier, and The Undiscovered Country in there. I believe The Undiscovered Country and Undiscovered Country and the Wrath of Khan are the director's cuts of these, which I believe are the superior versions. The Next Generation Star Trek films, which is Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. Insurrection is probably my favorite of these four, only because, again, we had the VHS copy of Insurrection before I got First Contact, and I loved that film, that movie. That was one of my earlier Star Trek movies that I saw growing up. And then there was one day I actually watched it to the end and then rewound it and watched it again right after that. I like it just for pure nostalgia's sake at that point. The Kelvin Timeline Star Trek films for J.J. Abrams, which is Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Beyond gets a bad rap, I think. That was definitely a good Star Trek film, and it's a shame we probably won't get a sequel after that. Star Wars, the prequel trilogy on Blu-ray. So there's that. This is technically an R, but I always file Rogue One in my shelf on this just because it comes between episodes 3 and 4, so I always put that right there. So this is going to be a hot take, but this is the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition. These are transfers from the 1997 VHS tapes that I grew up with. And for me, these are the definitive versions of the movies. I've seen the pre-Special Edition ones. They're good. I've seen the versions after these versions. I don't like the changes they make after this, especially when they replaced Sebastian Shaw at the end of Return of the Jedi with Hayden Christensen. That was not okay. So the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition 1997 are my version, and those are the ones that I have. There you go. Then we have This is a childhood film. These are childhood films growing up. The Ewok movies, not so much Caravan of Courage, but Ewoks: The Battle for Endor we had it recorded off of TV, and then they released these on DVD a while ago, and they're out of print now. I don't know where you can find them, probably on eBay or Amazon somewhere, but these are definitely worth a watch. These are not the best Star Wars films by far, but there's nostalgic stake for me in that one. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, much better than Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which I appreciated what it was trying to do, but it just missed the mark too many times for me to actually love the film. I'm just kind of a completionist, which is why I have it. Stargate, the original 1994 Stargate, with Kurt Russell and James Spader. I'm sorry, James Spader. This is definitely a classic. Roland Emmerich and Dean. Was it just Emmerich or Devlin? Yeah, directed by Roland Emmerich, but Dean Devlin was a part of it. Pre-Independence Day, it's worth a watch, especially if you love the series after that. Speaking of which, the 3-pack of Stargate: The Ark of Truth, Stargate Continuum, and the pilot of Stargate SG-1 Children of the Gods, the final cut. I don't know why they decided to do that. I guess they fixed the graphics and some of the effects. Because they hadn't nailed down some of the designs of like the ships and the wormhole effects early on in the movie, but in the TV show. But I mean, I prefer it for the 2 TV movies. Stealth. I've said it. I reviewed this film on my channel. This was also a movie that I saw on my birthday for my birthday party. I had the poster as the invitation, much as I did for Spy Kids 2. It's a dumb movie, I know, but I love it. It's a good movie. I know it's a Top Gun ripoff. I know it's a mix of Top Gun, Short Circuit, and 2001. I know, I get it. I love it though. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Next we have Suicide Squad, the extended cut. I know it wasn't great, but I like it for what it is, and I can still enjoy it. And plus, I have a soft spot for the soundtrack. Maybe that's what got me. I don't know. And then we have Sword in the Stone, VHS. All right, another camera reset, another jump cut. Let's get to the end of here. Let's get into the tease. Taken, the first Taken. I thought the second one was okay. I thought the third one was just dumb. So, first Taken's the only one I own on that one. Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Dumb comedy, love it. Tarzan, VHS. I remember actually seeing this in theaters. It's one of the earliest theater experiences of my life. So there's that. Ted, the first Ted. It's fine. I like Seth MacFarlane comedy. I thought the second one dragged it out way too long and was not as funny. So there's that. 10 Commandments. This is one I definitely need to get on Blu-ray because this is another one that my parents actually got this on Blu-ray, and the high-def remaster looks really good. So this is an epic. It's definitely an Easter film. Worth checking out. I need to rebuy that on Blu-ray. 10,000 BC. This is a dumb movie. This is terrible, but I kind of enjoy it. Maybe just because I like seeing mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and the ending is just kind of ludicrous. But yeah, this is definitely worth. I got this in the bargain bin. I think I only paid $2 for it. That's about as much as it's worth. The Terminal, kind of an underrated Steven Spielberg film with Tom Hanks and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I believe at one point this is like the terminal itself is actually the biggest standalone set ever made for a studio. So that's kind of cool. That one. The first Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. These are the only ones I feel like are worth owning. I was not a huge fan of Salvation, and I didn't like Genesis as the other one. Yeah, no, not worth it. So those are the 3 that are worth owning on that front. Time Bandits. I believe this is technically part of a trilogy from Terry Gilliam. I believe this is the third one, because I think Brazil is the second one, and then there's another one that I don't know, but this is definitely worth seeing, and there's a lot of big names in this, like Shelley Duvall, Sean Connery, Ian Holm. So, yeah, this is definitely worth seeing. It's kind of quirky, a little British humor there, but definitely worth seeing at least once. Timeline, I like the book. The movie does not compare to the book. This was a bargain bin find. Titan AE. This is an underrated film. This is the film that technically put Fox 2000 animation studios out of business, but this is definitely worth seeing at least once. I discovered this film actually back when there was a Blockbuster and you can actually just peruse the shelves looking at cool title art, and I think it was a little different than this. I think it's a little different than what this is, what the cover art was back then. But that's how we discovered it. It looked cool, so we watched it. I loved it. That's how it works, people. Definitely worth checking out. Titanic. I mean, cinematic classic. What more can you say? Tommy Boy, great comedy with Chris Farley and David Spade. I still haven't seen Black Sheep. I believe that's the other one that they did together, one of the big ones. So there's that. Top Gun. I mean, again, like I said, Stealth is basically Top Gun, but worse theoretically. But Top Gun's still a genuine classic. Really hope the sequel is actually good. Tora Tora Tora, a classic war film. It's a long war film. I believe it's 3 hours. Yes, 145 minutes. So no, it's only two and a half. But still, definitely worth checking out. Don't watch it on December 7th, though. I mean, that's just be weird. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. I mean, these are classics. I don't know if I'm going to buy 4 or not. I liked it fine, but yeah, these are definitely classics worthy of owning. Transformers, I have, this is the collection, but I only have the first 3, so Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. The first one's the only really good one. The other 2 are fine, and then maybe because I liked Shia LaBeouf in 2006, and then it kind of transferred over. I don't know, but yeah, those are worth. I did not like 4. I haven't even seen 5, so there's that. Truman Show, definitely a great Jim Carrey film on that one. 2012, another one of those Roland Emmerich disaster films. I don't know if you remember all the hype that went around in 2009, because there were a lot of people who were actually taking it semi-seriously, and then maybe not a lot, but enough people who were loud enough about the whole 2012 end of the world thing that everyone else was getting more media attention from it, and then just kind of laughing at them, and then that's how it kind of ballooned into a big thing. And I mean, it's a fun disaster movie. That would be a popcorn movie, I guess, yeah. Twister, another disaster film. I mean, classic, I guess. That was a bargain bin find. 2001: A Space Odyssey, cinematic classic from Stanley Kubrick. I perfectly understand if you fast forward till we actually get to the ship, and then kind of fast forward through the whole trippy thing at the very end, because really all the middle stuff is what everyone remembers. The monkey with the bone and the monolith thing is just kind of there. It's art. I understand the art behind it, but as a film goer, it is kind of boring to watch. I mean, gotta be honest in that way. So we got U's. U-571, one of the other great, good submarine films, war film. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's insane. It would never happen the way it does in the movie in real life, but it's a fun story. I like watching that kind of story. And then Unknown, which is not the best Liam Neeson film ever, but it's a cool thriller. And it takes place in Berlin. And like I said, I got to go to Berlin a few years ago, and it's cool watching this, seeing where all the cool sites are. So there's that. and there's also a little bit of Cold War element in that, which is, again, what I love. V for Vendetta, great comic book film. One of the, I feel like it kind of gets overlooked when people these days, when they ever say a good comic book film, they always go to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But this is one of those greats that kind of gets swept under the rug these days, and I feel like it shouldn't be, because this is a good one. Then we have Valkyrie, war film, Tom Cruise. I feel like Tom Cruise, they said Tom Cruise got the part in good part because he actually does look a lot like Klaus von Stauffenberg. And yeah, it's a pretty decent film. I enjoy it. Venom, I enjoyed it in the theaters. It's an enjoyable film. Yes, it is dumb in times, but yeah, it's enjoyable. Tom Hardy's cool to watch. Von Ryan's Express with Frank Sinatra. It's an older war film. It's not one of the more well-known ones, but it's worth a watch if you haven't heard of it before. W's, we got WALL-E, classic Disney Pixar. War Games, another classic. Shall we play a game? So classic, gets referenced in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, one of the best comic book movies of all time. There you go. West Side Story. I really hope the remake is good with Steven Spielberg's remake, but this is the undeniable classic. Robert Wise, Best Picture of 1961. Where Eagles Dare. This isn't the best World War II film. It's not one of the most well-known. I believe it's based on a book. Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood. It's fine. It's a little long for my taste, actually. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the definitive version. Don't say you like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory better. That would be wrong. Wind in the Willows. This is another one of those Rankin Bass films that I grew up with. It's a childhood classic. This is actually the last feature film, Rankin Bass theatrical film that they ever made before they closed down the studio in 1987. So there's a childhood classic right there. Without a Paddle, dumb comedy from 2004, but I enjoy dumb comedy every now and then. Wizard of Oz, classic. What more can be said about that one? The Wolverine collection, which is X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and Logan, and also Logan Noir, which is the black and white version of Logan. X-Men Origins, yes, it's bad. The Wolverine, underrated, I think. It's good. Even the climax, which is kind of silly and dumb, I still think it's a great film. And Logan, of course, is one of the best comic book movies of the modern age. And it's actually really interesting to watch Logan Noir, the Logan in black and white. It makes you focus more on the emotion, actually, and I think that's actually worth a watch. And we had also Wrath of the Titans. This was a bargain bin find. Yeah, I like the Sam Worthington Clash of the Titans well enough, but this one's like, all right, fine, we'll go with it. I was more curious to see what a sequel to Clash of the Titans would look like, and yeah, it's not great. That was a bargain bin. Wonder Woman, again, I'd say this is definitely in the top 10 of the comic book movies of the modern age, I think, especially for impact and on culture and how we are as a culture, so there's that. Then we have the X-Men collection, which is the first X-Men, X2, X-Men United, X-Men Last Stand, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and X-Men Apocalypse. I do not have Dark Phoenix. I don't know when that's going to be released anywhere. That's going to be a wait until the price comes down to buy that. I know these get swept under the rug because now they're back under Disney, and now they're going to get integrated into the MCU somehow. I still like these films. Even though they've had some hiccups, they've had some stumbles, these are still worth watching. Triple X, the first Triple X, I saw this on a recommendation of a friend fairly recently, within the last couple of years. The first Triple X is fine. The second one is horrible. I did not want to see the Return of Xander Cage that badly. So, and then last but not least, Young Frankenstein, another great Mel Brooks film. And then I don't have any Z films. So those are my movie collection, my movies that are usually see in the background here during my videos, but we're not done yet. All right, so this is the last jump cut, I swear. So we had all the movies all online. We got all those. We're all done with that. Now we get into my TV collection, which yes, I know you can get a lot of these on streaming, various platforms, but I'm a big proponent of owning my things, because honestly, with all TV rights come and go, get shifted around left and right, wherever, things get taken off, put back on streaming, take off streaming, depending on distribution and all that. So it's just much more convenient to me to have the owning. So I have all my my TV things, and I've made a lot of these just to make space in my limited shelf space. I've combined a whole bunch of these into, I bought them as individual seasons or whatever, and then I combined them into binders for a bunch of different series, and then I can expand them as the series progresses, or if it's just a complete series, but again, the boxes are just too big to fit on the shelf, and then I compress them into a binder. It's less shelf space. So anyway, I got in my TV collection, I got first and foremost, again going alphabetically, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I have seasons 1 through 5 on this. So I really enjoyed season 6. It was hit and miss, honestly, but it was still very enjoyable. I'm really excited to see what they do with season 7 in that regard. Next we have The Americans, the complete series. Again, great series, and plays into my love of Cold War history, and there's a lot of drama in that as well. Next we have Andromeda, the complete series. This is one of those, it's a quirky series. It's Gene Roddenberry's, based on Gene Roddenberry's stuff before he died, and then they kind of ran with it afterwards. And I really like the first season the best. Seasons 2 through 4 are just pretty good, and then season 5 I thought it was starting to go a little downhill, so I'm glad they stopped after season 5 on that regard. Next we have Marvel's Agent Carter, seasons 1 and 2, the complete series. Underrated Marvel series. Not a whole bunch of people watch this, and that's kind of a shame, because this is a great addition to the MCU, or Marvel TV universe. Band of Brothers, complete series, great mini-series, definitely worth a watch if you haven't. First, then Battlestar Galactica, the complete series. Great modern sci-fi, and dealt with a lot of issues of our time, especially with issues of terrorism, especially around season 3, I believe, beginning of season 3, where they did that. So there's that great series, as well as the Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome, which was a web series, I believe, and then they stitched it together to make a feature film that I just filed under Battlestar Galactica on that front. Next up, we have Big Bang Theory, seasons 1 through 11. I don't believe they've released the last season, season 12, on Blu-ray yet, but that will be next on my list to round out the series on that. Next I have CSI New York, the complete series. CSI, the original CSI is fine. CSI Miami is fine. I'm originally from the East Coast, and especially around New Jersey, so CSI New York was my CSI, and I really enjoyed it. The last couple seasons definitely went downhill, in my opinion. Next we have Doctor Who. This collection contains all of the Eccleston, Tennant, and Matt Smith Doctor Who's. I was never a huge fan of Capaldi. I just couldn't get really into him, and I thought Clara. I was not a huge fan of Clara, but I did enjoy Clara, especially in the beginning. And I thought she had much more chemistry with Matt Smith than she ever did with Capaldi. And I was never a big fan of Bill or Nardole for their chemistry with Capaldi. Again, Capaldi, not my thing. But I haven't seen any of the classic Who, actually. But these are great. If you haven't checked them out, definitely recommend that. Next up, we have the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy. I mean, they're funny. They're worth a watch on that one. Firefly, of course Firefly. Who doesn't love Firefly at this point? It's a perfect show, but I kind of agree with the arguments that say that it's only considered a perfect series because it was canceled so short. I don't think this would have been a very sustainable series after a while because of the format, but I mean, we'll never know, will we? Next up I have Hogan's Heroes seasons 1 and 2. I believe I got these as like a 2-pack at Target, I think. So that's just that for these. And again, World War II is my wheelhouse, and it's a cool show. One of the guys, Richard Dawson, I believe. He went on to host the British version of Family Feud in the 70s. So, fun fact there. John Adams, the miniseries, again, very award-winning, rightly so, miniseries, American Revolutionary History. Who doesn't like that? Last Resort, the complete series. This is one that I think was a big missed opportunity. Kind of similar to Firefly. I enjoyed this while it was on the air. I believe this was 2012, I think. 2013. And it was an interesting show, but it probably would have been sustainable for very long. But the way they canceled it, but then they gave it enough time to rewrite the ending to serve as a series finale, and that was just, it wrapped it up fine, but it was just kind of unsatisfying in that regard, but still worth a watch. Next we have, I found this under the TV, The Little Rascals, 88 classic episodes. I mean, I grew up with the tapes of these, and then now someone, I guess, who put this? Inspired Pictures. They cleaned them up and put them on DVD, and this is definitely a worthy collection to own. Long Way Round, the complete series. This is kind of a fun thing. My sister actually recommended this to me. It's with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman in the early 2000s. They decided to drive motorcycles from London to New York the long way around the world. So across Europe, across Russia, fly over to Alaska, down Alaska, across the US that way. And it's a fun little series just to hang out with them, and Ewan McGregor's a cool guy. So that was cool there. MASH seasons 1 through 4. I submit that I'm really only a huge fan of the first 3 seasons. 4 is okay. And by season 5, they actually changed the writers of the show, and then the series actually changed. So whereas in the beginning it was a mainly comedy show with some serious undertones, it then flip-flopped to be a rather serious show with some comedy undertones. And I was just never a fan of that flip-flop, and the new characters that they brought on, I was never a fan of them either. So really it's only 1 through 3 that I really recommend seeing, but 4 is still cool too. Next we have binders for The Mentalist, the complete series. This is actually my favorite non-sci-fi TV series out there. I just love it. And yes, I know Psych is the one that everyone knows, and everyone thinks that Mentalist is a ripoff of Psych, and they might have a point. I don't know. This is the one that I saw. I didn't have cable growing up, so this is the one I saw, and I still love it. And I tried watching Psych. I didn't like the pilot episode. Maybe I need to give it more of a chance. I don't know. But The Mentalist, worth it. Next we have Mythbusters. I have the complete Asterisk series because I actually have most of the series on digital. I spent a lot of years buying those episodes off of iTunes, but I wanted the DVD versions of the first 5 seasons because I found out, especially in the early episodes, the digital versions actually trimmed down the episodes and cut out a whole bunch of scenes that I remember being in the DVD versions, and that really bugged me. So that's why I got seasons 1 through 5 on DVD for that. Next we have, this is a big one, NCIS, the complete series. I've been watching NCIS since the very beginning, 2003, and still going. But at this point, I have seasons 1 through 15 here. Season 16, I believe, comes out in a couple of weeks here, and season 17 will come out. Probably will start sometime in the nest few weeks or at the end of September. I just want it to end. I mean, it's been going on so long. There's Mark Harmon's not a young man anymore, and it's just, I just want it to end at this point. Just end on a high note. You're starting to wobble a bit, I think, and I don't know. But NCIS, definitely worth it. And NCIS New Orleans, I have the first 2 seasons. I still need to get, I believe seasons 3 and 4 are out now on DVD. I should probably get those. Not the best spin-off. I was never a fan of NCIS Los Angeles, but NCIS New Orleans, worth a watch. Next, and I know what you're going to say about this, but the reason I got the as many of the Netflix Marvel TV series as I could was because with the way that Netflix and Disney are at arms with their rights and stuff, and where these may end up once Netflix's contract with Marvel expires, and the rights may end up going to Disney Plus, or not Disney Plus, it may end up on Hulu, who knows, but it's that uncertainty that I don't like, and that's why I enjoyed this, but I enjoyed the series. So that's why I have Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, Jessica Jones season 1, Luke Cage season 1, Iron Fist season 1. I'm hoping to get the Defenders just to have it wrap it up on that front. So there's that. That's the reason why I own that. Numbers, the complete series. Again, one of those classic crime dramas that I watched on CBS growing up, and it's a fun show. I mean, some of the things they stretch the premise a little bit in a few places, and the last season was definitely kind of was trending down as far as quality goes, but I still enjoyed it. Next up, I have The Orville season 1. I bought all the episodes on iTunes originally, and then I rebought it on DVD because these are amazing, and I'm hoping to. I have all of season 2 on digital, and I'm hoping to buy season 2 on DVD once that comes out. Probably my favorite new show of the last year 2 years ish. I have a collection of episodes of Overhaulin'. Again, I like classic cars. I like the show. It's a lot. Watch it for the cars at that point. I have a collection of, this isn't necessarily TV, but Riff Tracks, the guys who were behind Mystery Science Theater 3000. They release the audio files for their movies, but they also do collections of Riff Tracks versions of short films from 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, and I have a whole bunch of collections of those. I have 3 in here, 5 in here, another 2 separate that I'll probably wrap into that one. These guys are hilarious, and I love the shorts. I got Star Trek Discovery season 1. I personally like season 2 a lot better, even though the ending kind of, I had some slight issues with it, but I thought season 2 was much more solid of a season than season 1. But season 1 was definitely worth checking out. And then I have the original Star Trek, the original series on this. I got the Blu-ray remastered in here because I really like doing the compare and contrast between the original effects and the remastered effects that they put in. Some things look better. A lot of them look better in the remastered ones, but honestly, some of the ones from the original effects look better, honestly. So that's fun to compare and contrast. And then, of course, Star Trek: The Next Generation, the complete series. This is the regular SD transfer, not the Blu-ray transfer. That was just the price point for me. I wasn't willing. This was, I believe, $60 for the collection of SD, and then while the Blu-ray remaster was probably closer to $90 at that for that, and that was more than I was willing to spend at that point. And honestly, they look fine. I have no complaints as to how they look. I'm sure I've seen the images of the Blu-ray master. They look great, but these are fine for my purposes. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the complete series, great, worth watch. Star Trek Voyager, the complete series. Voyager was actually the series, the first TV series that of Star Trek that I watched. I watched a bunch of the episodes on reruns on UPN. I remember specifically a couple episodes from season 4. that I watched on UPN on New Year's Eve. I believe that was 2000. That might have been 2000 to 2001, actually. So I remember that from childhood. So there's those. And Star Trek Enterprise, the complete series. I like Enterprise. I know it's not the best Star Trek series out there, but this is one of the ones that was airing on UPN, and I would watch, if not watch the episodes, I remember seeing the teasers for all these episodes, especially for the first 2 seasons of Enterprise, and I don't care what you say, I like the theme song. So there. Let me know in the comments down below how much I'm wrong about that. Whatever. Stargate SG-1, the complete series. This is one of the first big box sets that I ever got. How this came in was it came as, it had a bunch of, all the discs were in like cardboard holders, and they actually started to scratch the disc after a while, and I didn't like how that worked, so I actually put all of the discs into separate thin cases with their own covers as that, so that they're a little more secure at that point. Real quick, we're near the end here. Stargate Atlantis, the complete series. Great spinoff, worth it. Stargate Universe, the complete series. It's not the best Stargate series out there, but it's definitely, I still enjoy it. I got a couple of my friends got me into this, and I loved it ever since. Stranger Things, seasons 1 and 2. I like these just because, again, I like to own the things, I enjoy the series, and I like the cool VHS packaging on these. These were really cool. Third Rock from the Sun, the complete series. I personally like the multi-camera sitcom more than the single camera sitcoms. That's just my personal preference. Timeless, the complete series. One of my most favorite series of the last few years. And I'm sad it got canceled. I wish the 2-part finale, the movie, wrapped things up a little more satisfactory, but I'm glad we got it. So that's awesome. Tom and Jerry, some great cartoons there. A few things of Top Gear, Top Gear 50 Years of Bond Cars, and a couple seasons of Top Gear US. US is still, it isn't as good as the British, but I still enjoy it. The original 21 Jump Street, seasons 1 and 2. This is a 2-pack from Target. Definitely worth checking this out, especially for very young Johnny Depp. Twilight Zone, some fan favorite films there. And last but not least, Wallace and Gromit, the complete collection. Definitely worth checking these out for Claymation. There we go. That is my entire movie and TV collection. I hope you enjoyed this, and if there's something that piqued your interest on this, please check it out. Check out that movie, and I pretty much recommend almost everything that I referenced in this. Other than ones that I already mentioned that are not as great, or bargain bins or whatever. But if you're intrigued, go check it out. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you stick around to my channel, and please give me a like, share, and subscribe. I very much appreciate it. And I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Thank you so much for watching. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.